All right, the last thing that I want you guys to take care of here before we start actually just producing our set is the title sheet. So this is pretty simple. I'm going to start with the sheet index and then showing you how to do a vicinity map. So the sheet index, you guys probably know by now. Some of you might have even pulled it in. It's really just a sheet list that it acts like a view. So you can just pull it onto your sheet just like that. Okay, so there's really nothing ceremonious about that except for the fact that you probably want to add a title for it. And I'm going to leave it as 1/4 inch text, so I'm going to just call this sheet index with an underline. Boom, done. Simple as that. Don't worry so much about the consultant. Like for you guys, don't worry about the consultant stuff. I showed you how to do that, but you only need your architectural drawings on there. So that takes up kind of the left-hand side of our view. We're going to put our vicinity map in the right-hand side. We're not going to get super thorough about showing all the possible things that you could possibly put on a title page, but here are some examples. The lazy way, I'm calling them out on this, the lazy way is to just snapshot Google Maps and put it in like that. In I would say most firms, if it's not your own firm, he gets to do this because it's his own firm, which is great. But most firms want to be a little more polished about it. So I'll show you how to do that. Let's go to Google Maps. That's how you do it. So Google Maps. All right, so I forget what the address is for our project. Let me pull it up. 1838 North Santa Anita, not Antia, Arcadia, California. Boom, so there's our site. So generally speaking, when you're doing a vicinity map, it depends on the scale of the project sometimes too, but for me, I like to just pick a square that at least clips one of the freeways. If you can just find the nearest freeway on-ramp, like that is what most people are getting at, because that's kind of your benchmark. So I'm going to pull something like this, and I'll just take like a snapshot. Are you guys familiar with the Snipping Tool? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like the greatest invention ever, and it took me way too long to learn about that tool. I just learned about it like, I don't know, like a year or two ago. No, more than that, or more than that. It was like 3 or 4 years ago. But still, like I was in my mid to late 20s when I found out about it. It's way too late. Anyway, so I'm just going to clip this thing like this, and I will save that thing somewhere in my S drive. I'm just going to call it capture. It's fine with me. So you go back into Revit. You can do this a few ways. You can do it sort of right on the sheet if you want, but I like to create views with it. It just makes it a little bit easier to control. So I'm going to go to View and create a drafting view. This drafting view, you guys, did we do drafting views yet? I don't think we did. No? Okay. So drafting views are basically just like a blank canvas. It's like in your digital world, you pulled out a piece of paper and you're ready to start drawing on it. So all you can do in drafting views is just two-dimensional elements. Some of them are smart, like components, and we'll get there when we get to the detailing phase. But we're going to call this vicinity map. And for these, I generally just do 12 inches equals a foot because it's scaleless. It's not critical for scale. So we're going to go to Insert, and we're going to insert an image. We're going to navigate to the file that we just had. So date modified, I will grab capture PNG. Wait, that's not right. Did I save it in the S drive? Just a sec. Save. Let's make it a JPEG. Oh, I put it in the dump folder, that's why. Save JPEG, we'll put it in the general folder. There it is, capture. Okay, so we've got this here. What you need to do is just draw with extra thick lines the freeways, and then you need to draw your major arterial roads, and then name them. That's it. That's all you need to do for vicinity maps. So it's purely annotative, as I mentioned. Just go to Annotate, Detail Line, and what you've got here are lines, medium lines, thin lines, and wide lines. Okay, so I want you to kind of just take a look. I'm just drawing this here so you see it first. That is a wide line. It's not very wide. Okay. We kind of need to know. Yeah, 2 3/4 of an inch. We're going to scale this thing down first of all. So just be aware that like with this being 2 3/4 of an inch, it's kind of big. So you kind of need to scale this thing properly since we're at 12 inches equals a foot. So let's drop that thing, that drafting view, onto our sheet first. Actually, that kind of works. It's a little big, but yeah. All right, so I'm actually going to scale this thing down a little bit. We're going to work on something that's approximately that big. Because usually, you know, something, having it too big is actually, you know what, let's make it a little bigger than that. Something like that. There. All right, so the point I'm trying to make, guys, is that our lines are not really very thick. Okay, so the lines here are super duper thin. So how do you change lines? We're going to go to Manage. We're going to go to Additional Settings, and we're going to go to Line Styles. When you expand line styles, you'll see all of these typical lines that are built into the file, and the ones that you've been working with are lines, medium lines, thin lines, and wide lines. It is almost never advisable to use just those lines. Almost all offices have some sort of line type convention, so we're going to kind of create a quick one here today. And I would advise most of you, and I'm getting very particular about this, not to use descriptive language for your line types. It comes from like the AutoCAD days where descriptive language was like useful because you could create a fence line that created, you know, fence type lines, and you could create like an overhead line that had very specific types of properties about the line and how it shows up on the page. In Revit, Revit is programmed to basically show you what you need to see. Like it looks, when you're working in Revit, it looks like it's going to look on the page. So the most sensible and efficient line naming convention is to literally name it what it looks like. So you go with, if you have a 1 line weight and it's a solid line and it's black, then you just name it 1. If you have a 1 line weight that is a hidden line, then you name it 1 hidden. Does that make sense? So that's like a typical, a lot of firms that I've seen lately at least are kind of moving that direction rather than having overhead lines that are a 1 line weight that have a hidden line and then having a fence line, or not a fence line, but a setback line that is also a 1 line weight that is a hidden line. You know, so it eliminates redundancy and there's no reason to have it be descriptive. Okay, so end rant. So let's go back to creating one. So if you want to create a new one, just go to Modify Subcategories, go to New. We're going to call this one 1. Fancy, huh? So that creates a 1 black solid line. We can do it again. We can make it 2. Then we can do it again, make it 3. In order to make these things actually valuable and not just the same exact line, you have to go in and change the line weight projection. So, or projection line weight. So we're going to change 2 to 2, 3 to 3. But really what I want to get at is that wide line, really, I don't know what it actually is. I don't think it's any wider than a 3. But in architectural drawing, we need everywhere up to like 10s sometimes, 10, 12. And you'll see what that is. But let's create a few different ones. We're going to create a 6, and let's create a 10. I might change these later. But anyway, line weight of 6, line weight of 10, and then hit OK. So this wide line, if you open that up, it now has a 1, 10, 2. Oh, that's weird. I don't know why the 10 showed up there. I wish you could change that. That's annoying. Anyway, so I'm going to change this to a 6. So now you see it got a little bit thicker, but not that terribly thick. you really start to get like massively thick lines when you start getting up into like the 8, 9, 10 range. So when you switch it to a 10, it's like super duper thick. That might even be too thick, but we're gonna go with it for now. So our job is to take these thicker line weights, and we're going to use them to show the significance of the road. So under Annotate, we're going to do a detail line. I'm going to grab a spline, and I'm going to make it a 10 thickness line, and I'm just going to trace over where the freeway goes. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's a schematic drawing. So we've got that. I'm going to do another line using DL. I'll grab a 6 thickness line, and this one's just going to be a straight line, and it kind of dead ends up there. We've got another straight line that sticks out, dead ends over there. Foothill Boulevard. Oh, another thing, guys, if you're kind of getting stuck to the orthogonal and you need to get rid of it, you can. I thought it was Shift. Maybe our hotkeys. I might have a hotkey that's different. Never mind. So just scroll in, and you'll be able to drop it where you need it to go. All right, so we'll do something like that. It doesn't need to be perfect. If you're doing something like this with like a little singular curve, you can do a few things. You can use a spline. That's an option. Or you can just use this little thing right here, which is a fillet arc, which allows you to just click 2 separate lines and create a little curve out of it. They don't need to be significant curves. They just need to kind of communicate the character of the thing that you're creating. So really, guys, it's as simple as just trying to recreate some of those major arterials. Okay, and then you just add some text. So let me just drop a few in, and then let's go to Annotate, add some text. I don't recall what that road is. Let's go down to 3/32 of an inch. This one is West Foothill Boulevard. So we've got West Foothill Boulevard. Whoops. All right, so I'm not going to do them all. I just showed you basically what you've got to do. Our site is going to be sort of located somewhere. So I typically do that with a small gray box if it's really, really, really small. So I'll do like a small gray box like right here. Do we have gray? We don't. Let's do black for now. It's fine. So we can just do text with a leader that calls it out. So we'll say 1838 North Santa Anita Avenue, like that. Let's leave it one line. Add a leader, point the leader. And then once you're done, you can just get rid of all that and you've got your vicinity map. So I'm going to emulate all these roads just by kind of copy pasting the same one. I could modify them later. I probably will. The freeway, I generally put freeway ones like right over top of the freeway, like that. Yeah, so this is our vicinity map. Make sure you kind of clean that up a little bit. And lastly, the last thing that you always need in a vicinity map is what? North arrow. Yeah, north arrow. Yeah, you guys are learning. Oh, do we have one? We do. Okay, so north arrow. North arrow is under the Annotate tab, under this little symbol thing. The default template comes in with a couple of, I guess, a center line symbol and a north arrow symbol. It's a very expensive library. And you just drop that in and you're good to go. So if you guys want to go back to like Revit City and get a really fancy one, you can get a fancy one from there. They have symbols as well as families, title blocks, all that other stuff. Okay. What questions do you have?
Are you to use the Google Maps or has to be Stevie?
What do you mean?
Like
Can you just leave the Google Map on there?
the
No.
Oh.
It's lazy. I mean, theoretically, yes, you can. In reality, if you wanted to, like, you know, like what Pisan did, he did it. right? So yes, nobody's going to slap you on the wrist or fine you or not approve your project because you use Google Maps. It's just one of those things that I want to forewarn you guys that some firms, by standards or whatever, they just think that it's more polished to do an actual drawing. I guess theoretically, there's also, you kind of run the risk of there being like copyright problems with that if somebody really wanted to be a jerk, but I doubt Google cares about an architect using Google Maps on their drawings. Does that answer the question? Okay. Any other questions?
My 10 line weight line
Yeah.
is like 0.001.
Super thin?
Yeah.
It might be a scale issue. I'll come check it out. What was your question, Danny?
Going back to the line weight naming convention, so just to kind of make sure I understood what you were saying, you named it 1 because you didn't want to confuse, let's say for example, the layer that you created or your pen weight, you don't want to confuse it with items that are already named. So like if you create your own custom hidden line, but then in visibility graphics you turn off hidden lines or something, you don't want to confuse the two?
Kind of. Let me explain it this way. So let's go into floor plan for a moment. So take a look at this. We've got ignore that one. That's a plan region. So we've got this. Okay, those rails exist above us. Okay, they're an overhead line. So if I could, let me just kind of erase that real quick. One of the things that frequently shows up is hidden lines, right? So we have these hidden lines that kind of go across like this for overhead elements. Okay. At the same time, we might also have hidden lines that are used for like in a closet. You might show a hidden line that's used for the rail for a coat hanger thing. I don't know why I'm blanking on what that's called right now. But at the same time, you might also have let's pretend this is a bathroom, you might also show ADA clearances for, components. And you might also show exterior overhangs, which are also overhead lines. But what I'm getting at, really, is that all of these things, they're just hidden lines. They all look the same. They're all level 1 or line weight 1 hidden line with, right now it's green, but typically black, right? So the idea is there's no reason to put a overhead garage door line type and a roof eave line type and a shelf hanger line type. Right? The descriptive naming is redundant. So you just call it 1 hidden, and it takes care of it all.
So you're saying just draw lines and then select the line or the pen weight? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, there's no reason to name the line type. Does that make sense? So it like the AutoCAD thing, that's where it becomes confusing, because in AutoCAD you have a layer, and in layers you might want to turn off your overhead soffit layer, right? But your overhead soffit layer had a line weight of 1, and it was a hidden line. But here you don't have layers, so you can't turn off overhead soffits that are detail lines. So your detail lines really only need to be level 1 or a line weight 1 with a hidden. That's it. Does that make sense? Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I did the math once at my previous firm where we were talking, and it was a firm of like, I think about 20 technical staff. Like we had 20 people who were full-time technical staff, right, doing drawings and stuff like that. And I kind of surveyed our coworkers, and we talked about how much time we spend on the day-to-day just doing the process of opening up this little menu, right? Like clicking on a line, opening up this little menu, and scrolling down to find the line that we want. And then So we cross-referenced that with how much time we would spend if we switched to just a numerical system. So we did some testing, like ran some scenarios and everything like that. And for a 20-person technical staff throughout the year, we could cut down $140,000 that was lost just spending time going up and down this little menu. $140,000. Like, that's an incredible delta. Because people were getting lost in, oh, well, I need to find my second floor overhead fence number 2 line. You know, like, you don't need that. If you want to show a second floor overhead fence version 2 as a 3 thickness 1/8 inch hidden line, then just search for the 3 thickness 1/8 inch hidden line. Does that make sense?
They're just simplifying the naming convention.
Yeah. Did that clarify it for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Any other questions after that very long monologue? All right. Cool. Or dialogue, actually.